The Sony PSP launched in December 2004 in Japan, March 2005 in the USA, and September 2005 in Europe. It was taking on Nintendo's dominance in the handheld market and as such had to make a splash. They started right off by marketing the system as a powerhouse, but also something that adults and older teenagers could enjoy, marketing the games made for that age range heavily. They also wanted to make a clear differentiation between them and Nintendo, and eschewed the family-friendly image for something that they thought would be seen as cool, or at least stand out. Around a year after the PSP released, Sony would start marketing a white version intended to keep momentum on system sales. They needed a marketing campaign and worked with various companies around the world. One marketing campaign in particular though caused a bit of noise. They had a slogan, "White is coming," and wanted to take a number of photos which show the contrast between the colours of white and black. They hired the agency TBWA to do this and posted the chosen images on billboards around the Netherlands. Unfortunately, this is what they came up with. The image is two ladies having some sort of scrap, with the white lady holding the black lady by the neck in a way that is clearly dominating. This image startled people, as it had connotations to slavery, with people feeling as if the intention of the advert was to show white dominance over black. Other images taken in the photo shoot show the women fighting in various positions, and on the surface they do not seem as bad. This was the one though that was put up on that particular billboard, and that was the one which caused the storm. The reactions came in quickly. The images from the campaign were not only printed on these large billboards around the Netherlands, but also featured prominently on various Sony websites of the time. Sadly, I was unable to get any footage of this because the websites used Flash, which doesn't seem to work very well with the Wayback Machine. The availability of the images online meant that anyone could see them and judge for themselves their opinions, rather than simply going off the one image. However, much of the focal discussion was around this particular picture. Californian Assemblyman Leland Yee said that he was deeply disappointed in Sony's senseless decision to publish this racially charged advertisement. "I can't begin to determine Sony's motivation, but I believe this marketing strategy is unnecessary and clearly offensive to many in our community." Leland Yee was also someone who was pushing through various laws to try and ban violent video games, but is now a convicted felon for racketeering and gun running. I'm not making a comment on what I think about his opinion, but just thought I should mention that. Chapter president of the San Jose NAACP chapter said that the days of blacks being portrayed in minstrel shows are long gone, and with good reason. He said that the minstrel show was an awful chapter in history, and this ad smacks of that age and time. It is even further unacceptable that some corporations still think it is okay to use racially charged media images. The latest Sony ad conjures up bad memories of when stereotypical and offensive images of people of colour were accepted means of selling a product. Sony should immediately apologise and discontinue these archaic advertising tactics. Whilst these were two of the more widely published comments around the advertising campaign, they were hardly the only ones. Much of the controversy began online within the gaming community, with sites such as Kotaku and Joystick being the first to widely share the advertisement after smaller blogs like Digital Battle posted it. Initially, the gaming websites were somewhat hesitant in calling the ad racist. They seemed to be testing the waters, wanting to find out what the public opinion was first before they committed either way. The effect of these bigger websites posting the story caused a snowball effect with other sites in the gaming and tech industry before it spilled over into mainstream news. This was picked up in America by CNN Money, in the UK by The Guardian, and in Australia with the Sydney Morning Herald, causing it to become a global news story. It didn't stop there, with many other regional and smaller news networks sharing the story to some degree. Now there needs to be a little bit of context around this. Part of the reason why this advertisement blew up so quickly was that Sony had a history of controversial campaigns, and many were fresh in the mind of journalists, so they always had their eye on what Sony was doing. For example, a year prior, Sony had printed this image in Italy of a gamer wearing a crown of thorns, but the thorns were PlayStation buttons with the caption, 10 years of passion. This angered Catholics, with Italian Cardinal Acilio Tonini denouncing the ad as an irreverent mockery. In the United States, they had ran a campaign in which they graffitied PSP onto walls, though they apparently had paid the owner's permissions, they hadn't received authority from the city. In addition, they had put up a number of adverts in the London Underground, including one which said, "Your girlfriend's white bit's here." The worst one though said, "Take a running jump here," which made light of the public train suicides and caused employees working on the lines to cover up the advert with red tape. Finally, they had these adverts with talking squirrels, which some people were also not very happy about.
They got more flavor than a pistachio.
No doubt. I'd whip you head to head.
What? Squirrel, please. You have about as much skills as a chipmunk.
Your mama's a chipmunk.
Oh no! He got denied.
So yeah, those campaigns are all in the year previously and all for the PSP, so Sony had been ruffling feathers for quite some time. They knew what they was doing. When each of these controversies blew up, they went into the news, lots of people heard about the PSP. They were trying to be edgy and adult to make the PSP look like the cool alternative to the Nintendo DS. It was similar to how they marketed the original PlayStation as a cool adult alternative to its rivals, but they hadn't realised that culture had changed by that point, and the absolution of the internet meant that there was no such thing as a local advertising campaign anymore, especially for a global brand. All these previous campaigns led up to this one, providing the kindling for this story. At this point, Sony could no longer shrug the campaigns off as a mistake, or pretending they didn't think these would be controversial. It was entirely the point of them, and they succeeded in that. In each of these cases though, Sony did eventually apologise and take down the adverts, including this one. So we've taken a look at what the reaction was like online and in the American media, but what about the reaction in the Netherlands, where the billboards were actually posted up? Well, it was a little different. The coverage in the Netherlands started a few days after the coverage in the rest of the world, and it mostly focused on how the ads were upsetting people in the United States and elsewhere. The coverage itself doesn't take a particular stand either way, and it almost seems as if they are happy that Netherlands was being featured in a global news story. It gives the impression that there really wasn't that much controversy in the Netherlands itself, where the billboard actually was. Sony made some statements after all the hubbub. The first one was that this was just one image out of a photo shoot of 100 images, and that they're all supposed to show the contrast between black and white in one way or another. This doesn't really explain why they chose just this one particular image to go on the billboard over all the other ones, and it's not really a very good point, as most people wouldn't see the whole photo shoot. Reaction from gamers online and the public was mixed. Whilst people could clearly see the racial connotations behind it, I mean, it's almost as if there is some sort of history of subjugation between ethnicities, some people just thought it was supposed to be an edgy campaign. The image itself though, when taken on its own, is quite shocking, and does have an impact that can be clearly seen as negative. Ultimately, Sony apologised, said they got it wrong and took it down. So, what have we learned today? All advertising exists because they want to get the product noticed. A little bit of controversy is often seen as a good thing by marketers because it's the easiest way to get into the press worldwide. Their hope is that people will forget the story but remember the brand, and that the PSP will be in their minds long after they forget about the controversy. But it's a very fine line, and if they go too far, could hurt the brand in such a way that people refuse to buy it and cause more problems for the company. This was one of them. They were on the wrong side of the line, but it wouldn't be the last time this would happen. Thanks for watching the latest episode of Games in the Media. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to leave a comment, like the video and share and subscribe. I also have a join button if you want to become a channel member and see exclusive content, as well as a Discord in my description if you want to come and have a chat. If there's anything in particular you want to see me cover in a future episode, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!